Hey guys, this is Grace and welcome to my channel and welcome to video number 2 of my one card sketch 5 ways video here on my YouTube channel. This is where I take a card sketch and try to create varying cards with it using the sketch as my inspiration. So with this one, I'm going to use hexagons, but instead of using or placing them in just one part of the card, I'm actually going to split them up and put them in corners. So I'm going to have a collection or a gathering of these shapes on the bottom right, and then they're going to also be a scattering of them on the top left. And I really like the hexagons. The hexagons are a perfect shape for this because they nestle close together very easily. And I got a nesting die, hexagon nesting die on Tuesday morning a few months ago, and so I was so excited to use that. This is the first time that I used it, and it probably won't be the last one just because I like the shapes. I don't know what size these are, but I tried to stay close to the 1-inch size that the card sketch called for, just because I know that if I use that size that I can put more of these shapes in the card rather than doing the bigger ones. So I'm just again putting them in 2 different spots, kind of having a corner or of the design on my card. And if this is the first time that you have seen this, I actually have another video of this. Make sure that you check out my YouTube channel for that. Basically, I pulled out a sketch that I found in Pinterest, and I am trying to create or challenge myself to see how many different cards I can use with just that one card sketch. So the sketches are a great way to inspire you to create, whether it's cards or layouts, because they're just a blueprint. They could be looked at in many different ways, and so you can change like the shapes of it or the placement of things, and you can get a totally different project with that in mind. So I'm gonna go with you can always count on me for my sentiment here. Again, I have stamped and heat embossed all of my sentiments with gold embossing powder just to make the process faster. And I really like the script font from the Simon Says stamp set. And I'm sorry that my light is wonky. I'm trying to find a different way to do my lighting, but I am just a small channel and I don't really have very good knowledge about where to best set up these lights here. I know I need lights, but I don't have a very big table or scrap space, and so I'm limited with that as well. I think I need to move that light a little bit, not totally on my video or on top of my table maybe. Anyways, so I am finishing these off again just as I did with the first 3 cards from these series. I am finishing off with some rhinestones, and that's going to do it for me. And so that's card number 4 for this one card sketch 5 ways video. I think I'm going to try to add more rhinestones, but I ended up not, just because it didn't work well with the design that I have in mind. So card number 5 is like totally like off the grid, I would say, from the card sketch, but it's still a design that was inspired by the card sketch. And this is the card that took the longest, just because it's has a lot more elements to it. So I'm going to stamp this flower. It's an aster flower, and I'm going to stamp it on the back side of a pattern paper from that 6x6. I don't want to waste the papers or the items that I pulled out for this particular series and kit, and so I'm making the most of it, and I am going to use that. It does take me a long time to stamp this just because the center of that flower is just not sticking. When I noticed that it wasn't sticking after like the 3rd stamp, I grabbed my my sandpaper block and tried to sandpaper that part, but it was still not working. And then I have this kind of rolling thing for like jelly plates, and I used that as well. Finally, it worked by just me pushing my thumbs onto that spot that was not working, but it took me a long time, and I'm not going to show you the frustration and how long it took, but it did took a very long time. So needless to say, there's a reason why I don't use this stamp often, and I don't know why. It's just the center, I don't know why that is causing me. I don't know if it's because of the way the stamp was actually created, like the actual polymer stamp, or is it because of the image? I have no clue. But anyways, now that I've stamped it, it's not that pretty, but I'm just going to show you. I'm not very good with coloring, and so one of the tips or tricks that I found out was that I've learned over the years is that if you're coloring something that's you can actually see out there, try to Google it and see what the colors were used. So if it's like, an animal or stuff, I will Google the animals just so I can kind of see the colors that were being used, and same with the flowers. So I have the Spectrum Noir markers, and I did pull out my little sheet of kind of my cheat sheet to see the colors on white cardstock, and I pulled out a few different colors here. I'm going to try to do two colors so that I can blend them together. So I have two yellows and then two purples, and then I just have a green for the stem and the leaves. And the asters are purple, and so I'm going to go with that. I am starting off with like a darker purple in the centers and then a lighter purple for all of the other colors. And I liked how this turned out. I should do this more often, but again, I don't. So I like these challenges because it helps me to do things that I've always wanted to try, but never got around to trying it. So I encourage you, invite you to do the same, especially if you have products in your stash that you still love but haven't used in a long time. So I'm just going to finish off these coloring here, and then I'm going to go ahead, and the biggest plan that I have with this particular piece is to cut it up and to put it back kind of like a puzzle. And then I'm going to have that same kind of look as the diamonds, but instead of diamonds, it's just going to be rectangles, but it will have spaces in between it. But then instead of like just multiple designs, you see a bigger design from those smaller pieces put together. I hope that I'm explaining that right. So I am just going to color this up. I don't know if I cut out the video as I finished the coloring. I probably did it, but you can see me color it, and it's very, very basic. So I'm just going to finish coloring all of these images, and then we will get to cutting it up. So again, I'll cut it up into, I think I cut it up into 8 pieces, and then I have some more of those pink cardstock that I used for the sentiments, and then I'm going to add that there, making sure that I leave a little bit of space in between the blocks, and then I'm going to go and tackle the stamping the sentiment. And I gotta say that coloring is such a relaxing activity, and I just don't do them enough. So I need to, again, stamp some more items. I used to do that where I stamp an item, and then when I am looking for something to do, especially when I am not close to my scrapbook room, I will have items to color, because it's really easy to travel with those particular products in hand. I have a little envelope or a zipper pouch that I put them in, where I have my stamped images, and then I have my coloring mediums in the bag, and so it helps to bring my craft wherever I go. And I usually bring it for when I'm traveling, or if we're on a road trip, or if I am at work. I am a substitute teacher, and so sometimes when I have a planning period, and because I am not the teacher, I don't have anything to do during planning period, and that's what I do. I craft because I am kind of the person that I like to be busy with my hands. So I'm going to trim this. One of the things that I made a mistake right off the bat is that I did not cut this piece in a perfect, like a perfect measuring. Like it's a little bit bigger than 3-inch wide. And so if I were to do this again, I would probably make sure that I cut that 3 inches so that I know that the center is 1.5, and I didn't do that here. So I'm going to use my T-square ruler and trying to measure it a little bit, but I ended up just kind of like free hand making my measurements just because I didn't know how to measure it, because it was like a 3.5, or it wasn't even 3/4. It was just a little shy of 3/4. And so I didn't know how to divide it evenly in the center. And I'm going to make this first mark. And as you can see, the right side is a little bit fatter or wider, I should say, than the left side. And so at this point, I am going to just take a best guess and just make a line in the center, and I like that one better. So I don't know where that is. I don't know what point that is. So if you are to replicate this card, make sure that your card piece where you have your image is a perfect cut, so you can at least know that, you know, it's either a 3-inch or a 3.5, just so you know that where the center of that piece is. So I'm going to trim off the edges, and because it was a little too thick on the bottom, and then I'm just going to cut these pieces based off of the lines that I created, and I will go with some eraser to erase the lines that I created, because I don't want that showing on my card base. So I just have this pink eraser, and I'm gonna erase just the lines that I'm seeing. I'm sure that the lines are there, but I'm just going to erase the ones that I am seeing right off the bat. I'm almost done here, bear with me. And then I'm going to, of course, clean that up and then adhere it to my card base. And then at this point, I thought that maybe I can add one more of those heat embossed and stamped sentiment here, but I'm actually going to end up making a change just because there was just no room, and I didn't want to cover up the flower. I took so much time in stamping it and coloring it and making that the focal point of the card that I did not want to cover that up. So I'm going to end up doing something different for my card sentiment. Another thing that if you cut up your pieces in smaller blocks than I did here, make sure that you number them so that you know which one goes together, because there are some images that it's like a puzzle, right? It's going to be hard to know which pieces go close together. And so if you are getting confused, make sure that you number that in the back as well if you need help with that. But this one's fairly easy. It was just cut in half in the center and then cut again into little rectangles on the left and the right side. So I'm almost done here. I just need to mat this particular piece of paper, and I've toyed that maybe I should make that kind of flush to the left or flush to the right, but at the end I actually like it centered. Here I am additioning some of the sentiments here, and I don't know, I just don't like it. I like that it's centered, and I did use that paper that has kind of blotches of colors in them just because I thought that that would be nice to incorporate a little bit of color in the background, but it doesn't take away from the beautiful flower that we created in the center. And I'm pulling out, so the stamp set that I have, that I got this flower from, has little sentiments on there, and one of them is the one that says "Hello, sweet friend," and I thought that that worked well, and so I just stamped that on the bottom where there's a space with the one of the last blocks, and then I'm adhering that. At first I thought I'm going to use a craft cardstock base just because that's what I've been using, but it just didn't look well to me, and so I'm going to be auditioning a few more card bases here. I have box, and actually I think it's a shoe box, that I put pre-made card bases, whether it's ones that I bought or ones that I've made, and so it'll be easy for me to just put my card fronts on the card bases. And so I'm going through a lot of them here. And finally, I'm going to go with this purple one because it matched that flower very well. And so I'm going to ink up the edges of this card piece and then adhere that to the card front, and or to adhere the card front to the card base, and then finish off with my flower. I will be adding the flower with some foam adhesive. Again, I don't do that normally, but I felt like this particular card, the flower needed to needed to be center stage, and that meant that it needed to be added with some fun foam just so that it will make it stand out a little bit more. And those are my 5 cards. Let me know in the description box below which one was your favorite, which one you would like to lift or to use as an inspiration on your next project or in your next card. Please leave that in the comment section below. If you have any questions, also leave that in the comment section below. And if you like these videos, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Don't know when that will be, but I hope that it will be sooner rather than later. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll catch you guys another day. Bye.